Hello and what's up everybody? Welcome to another round of MTGA Tasting Notes. Today we are getting into our 2023 Clarksburg Pinot Gris, the token white wine in the MTGA lineup, because realistically, as much as we love making our big reds, we always need to have something light and bright hanging about, especially when the spring and summertime starts warming up. This is the third iteration of this wine, and I couldn't be happier with how this has evolved within our program over the last three vintages. 2021 and even into 2022 were kind of the rough drafts. Both turned out really, really delicious. I'm very happy with how those wines turned out. But once you get to year three, and this is something that I've felt about any wine that I've added to our lineup, is once you make it for a third time, you've kind of worked out the kinks. You know a little bit more about what to expect, you know the vineyard site better, you know your aging and barrel program a little bit better, and you feel as though you're just a little bit more confident. You can make the right judgment calls sooner rather than later and really get a wine to go the direction you want it to. Winemaking is based so much in experience and remembering how past vintages were challenging, how past vintages, where you needed to adapt and overcome certain things, and how you were able to make great wine, maybe in spite of some challenging circumstances. Luckily in 2023 though, this was a vintage that people are already talking about it being the vintage of the decade, even a vintage of the century out here in Napa. And once we start bottling up some of these wines, it's going to be something that is the proof is going to be in the pudding. And realistically, even outside of Napa, like here in Clarksburg, a little bit further north and east of us, the wines are tasting phenomenal. It was across the board a really solid year, it feels like, for Northern California. And this little guy here is going to be no slouch in its own right. This is something that we age for maybe 6 or 7 months. It's a pretty quick wine to make. This is at the winery, typically in late August, early September, kind of around Labor Day. At that point, it goes through its fermentation process. It is all fermented in barrel in really small lots. This particular year, we used just neutral French oak barrels for it. There wasn't any stainless steel or anything else mixed in there. Frankly, with how kind of light and bright this variety is, we really didn't feel the need to use any stainless steel. And that those oak barrels really helped kind of give it a little bit of roundness, a little bit more richness, and make it kind of a surprisingly full-bodied kind of white wine, despite the reputation that Pinot Gris or Pinot Grigio, they are in fact the same variety, just Pinot Grigio is the Italian version. Pinot Gris is more so the French version of making this wine. The Pinot Grigio style is always a little bit more linear, meant to go with food, very crisp, very bright, a little bit more one-dimensional. This is certainly modeled after a little bit more of the French style, which tends to be a little richer, a little rounder, tends to have a little bit more complexity. There are always exceptions to those rules, but that's kind of where we model this wine. Hence a little bit more that oak aging rather than the stainless steel aging side of things. So on the nose, it is just bright. It's fresh. It doesn't go towards, kind of your richer, riper kind of California white wines, but it's also not that super citrusy or grassy style. It kind of sits in the middle right there, where it has kind of that nice little pithy kind of characteristic, almost like think of like a Meyer lemon, how that smells, where just your typical kind of garden variety lemon's a little bit more edgy. It's a little bit more intense, especially on the acid profile, but your Meyer lemons are a little bit sweeter, like a little bit richer. That's kind of where this plays in terms of its characteristics. And that really continues when you taste it, because it's just bright, it's fresh, it's easy drinking. There is that nice kind of roundedness to the wine, but some really great structure to it. This is, how we make it is to be enjoyed by the pool, on the boat, after some yard work, or after, shooting some golf. Is that how you say that? I don't really play golf. Shooting golf, going around the links, whatever you want to call it. I'm really good at drinking wine or beer in the cart, not so much at swinging a golf club. So this is where I would be hanging my hat. Anyway, it's something that, like we mentioned at the beginning, something to be kind of enjoyed during these warmer months, something that is you keep in the fridge for, you know, those just when you need a glass of something to kind of take the edge off the day. And very typically it's a bottle of wine that you have to keep 2 in the fridge of, just because you know once you get through that first bottle, you have some friends over, you're probably going to need a second one shortly thereafter. This is now that we have kind of solidified our program, you know, how we want to be making this wine, and really kind of the ballpark we want to be playing in as we continue making this wine into the future. Very excited for this new release, and of course the new releases to come after this, because we really feel as though that we've dialed in where we want our white wine program to be moving forward. So I really hope you enjoy this. It is something that was a ton of fun to make, even more to bottle up this last winter and start getting it out and about this spring. So cheers, and please stay tuned. We're going to be getting into a few more of our new releases here for 2024.